left and climbing out. To the right, diving in now at over 300 miles per hour is a gentleman, once again, Sean Carroll, flying this Yak-9, one of nearly 35,000 of different Yaks. Whoa, yeah, Bill, what a great pass that is. If you get the cameras ready, going right by the F-15 Eagle. We would encourage you today, if you don't have hearing protection, you can buy hearing protectors from a lot of the different vendors who are here. We encourage you to get some hearing protection. This is one loud airplane from the front. It's also one loud airplane from the rear. Here we got to do it. Little salute there. That's the speed brake. Do a little Hampton Road salute as Sean Carroll comes by once again. It is Allison Power Yak-9 with one of the most beautiful paint jobs ever. Got another salute. Captain Lou Diablo Garidi in aircraft number 1, Lieutenant Colonel Matt Torts Esper in aircraft number 2. Coming up to show center right now, Lieutenant Colonel Jim Meager in aircraft number 3. I'm going to give him the sign, see if we can get him to raise that speed brake for us here. There we go. Everybody in the crowd doing it too? Okay, you know how to do it? Do that to get him to put the speed brake up, all right? You guys do it. I'm not going to do it. Let's see if he'll do it. Maybe you'll see me do it. There you go. He did it for you. That worked. And that's Lieutenant Aaron Scuba, call sign Scuba Oliver. All these guys have call signs. Who knows how they get their call signs? More often than not, getting a call sign is not something of great pride. It comes from a mistake. I got the call sign ropes a few years ago. Sean Carroll going by, I don't know what his call sign is. I got the call sign ropes because I was jumping in an airplane in a hurry to take off, and I started the engine, and I started to pull away from the parking place, and the airplane would not move because the tail tie down was still attached. So they call me ropes. Now, over the top, let's take a look. Here comes Sean Carroll now. Let me tell you a little bit about the purpose of this particular airplane and all the early Yak series aircraft. They were designed to stop the Luftwaffe. The Luftwaffe was the Air Force of the Germans in World War II. As Sean passes over, inverted, hanging from the straps, and slowly moves that stick to the left to roll out. The Luftwaffe protected German soil from airborne attack throughout World War II. Particularly from 1943 on, American bombers were attacking targets in Germany. And the Luftwaffe's main fighters, the ME-109 or the Messerschmitt Bf-109 and the Focke-Wulf FW-190 were sent to knock down those bombers to keep them from delivering their targets, their bombs on target. Well, on the Eastern Front, with Russia being on the side of the Allies, there were many, many Yaks out there to try to knock down the Luftwaffe. The Luftwaffe reported over 94,000 aircraft missing in action during World War II. More than 62,000 of these were on the Eastern Front, and most of those losses were attributed to Yak fighters. Now, our business, the air show business, really is kind of dominated by male pilots. But let me tell you a little bit about the Yak fighters and the Russian pilots during World War II. There were 12 Russian women pilots who became aces flying Yak fighters. An ace is an aviator who has scored 5 aerial victories. And there were 12 Russian women pilots who became aces. Of the Yak series, the Yak-1, the Yak-3, and the Yak-9, production totaled about 35,000 airplanes, and a majority of them were Yak-9s, as we're seeing here today. They were flown by several Allied air forces, the French, the Polish, as well as the British. Now coming in from the right. Now watch him, he'll bank it so. No, he'll pull right back up to 45. Now watch him go over. A beautiful, beautiful roll over the top. Production for the Yak-9 ended in 1953. Even in the Korean War, many early U.S. kills in the air war during the Korean War from 1950 to 1953 were against Yak-9s. But even with production ending in 1953, there weren't very many Yak-9s around. But in the 1990s, it was discovered that the original Yakovlev Design Bureau factory contained sufficient original parts to build 7 airplanes. In other words, they were parts that were made prior to 1953. They were never used, and there was enough of a parts store that they could actually build 7 airplanes. And the one that Sean Carroll is flying today was the number 4 of those 7. It is a new production aircraft with original parts. It is a very, very rare bird indeed. Consider that most of the 35,000 Yaks that were built during World War II were the Yak-9s, and we've got the chance to see one of them right here today with Sean Carroll flying through with an Allison-powered Yak. Now, the original Yak-9s were powered by a V12 Klimov Russian piston engine, a V12 liquid-cooled. But this one is the Allison V12 engine. Over 1,600 horsepower. It's an Allison V1710. Most aircraft engines are cooled by air. But this one is a liquid-cooled engine. Oh boy, Sean is having the time of his life today. He is just absolutely loving putting this airplane through its paces. Now, the paint job that you see on it, you'll see some sun glinting off it at times, and that's just that great new modern paint that's on it. The original ones did not have that fancy paint job. It was painted in camouflage colors, but it wasn't fancy like this. Now watch him as he pulls up, does a slow roll into the inverted. Let's see if we go all the way through. Yep, beautiful coordination. There's a lot of power. Over 300 miles per hour is what he's doing here. It's armed with a 23mm cannon. It has 2 machine guns firing 12.7mm shells. It can carry 8 rockets and 2 bombs. Now, if you've seen bombs on an airplane, they usually come out of a bomb bay and they are long and they have fins on the back and they drop out of a bomb bay horizontally, and then they start aiming vertically toward the ground. Well, in this airplane, the 2 bombs that it could carry were actually carried vertically right behind the pilot and were deployed straight down. I don't know what the reason for that was. Maybe they thought they could be more accurate that way. Fact of the matter is, they were able to get those 2 bombs in there, and the 12.7mm machine gun, and that 23mm cannon, all in that Yak-9. This airplane in 2002 placed 3rd in the unlimited bronze class. It is one fast airplane, and it's the first Allison-powered Yak fighter to ever finish a race at the Reno National Air Races that take place out at the Reno Nevada area in September of each year. He's going to do what we call a photo pass, where he's going to stand it up on one wing, bank sharply to the right, so he can look right down into the cockpit. Here he comes. Oh boy, now he'll level it off in a second. And watch him cut it hard now. Oh, he's going to bring it straight up. There is such power that the airplane is about 3/4 the size of a P-51 Mustang, with only 28 feet in length and a wingspan of 31 feet. It weighs about 6,800 pounds at takeoff. With air-to-air mission, ground mission, light bomber mission, it also had a bomber escort mission. This was one of the little friends. It even escorted American B-17 bombers on some of their bombing raids. The bombers were known by the fighters, the single-seat fighters, as the big friends. The bomber crews saw these little single-seat fighters as the little friends. And together, they fought off the Luftwaffe on both fronts of the war so that those bombers could get their armament, their bombs delivered on target to stop the Nazi war machine. Now let's watch Sean as he look at the wide landing gear on this airplane. Very similar, if you will, to a P-51 Mustang, but notice he lands it fairly fast. This is a very, very fast wing on this airplane, and that wide landing gear makes it a little easier to land. That's called a wheel landing, where the two main gear wheels touch down first, and then, as he bleeds off airspeed, he'll then relax and allow the back pressure, the pressure on the stick to release, and that tail wheel will slowly come down and bring it to a stop. He'll be coming by in just a couple of seconds. Of course, we want to thank the folks at Toyota, Langley Federal Credit Union, AirTran Airways, U.S. Air Force Reserve, Paradox East Coast Grill, Disabled American Veterans, sponsoring Tito, the B-25 that you'll see fly later on today. Thanks also to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and Geico.com. You'll see the Geico Skytypers just about noon today, about a half an hour, and those guys will be signing some autographs, and we'll tell you all about Geico in just a few minutes when they